My name is Dana, and thanks for joining me today. This class will emphasize building core strength. You'll receive a full body stretch as well. I hope you enjoy it. I, in addition to my yoga mat, have a blanket open for underneath my knees, shins, and feet. We'll be doing a handful of exercises, as you'll see from there, and I would recommend 2 yoga blocks nearby in case you need those. That said, the first pose right out of the gate is Hero's Pose Virasana, which is a posture where the knees are together. The feet separate with toes extended back, and the hips come between the heels as you sit. That doesn't always work very well for certain bodies. So that block might already come in handy as you spread the feet and place a block between the heels, or maybe even 2 blocks. You won't be dropping as close down to the ground, which should help the knees. Another option would be taking your feet all the way together and sitting back onto the heels. Sometimes that pose, Vajrasana, Thunderbolt pose, feels better for the knee joint than Hero's Pose. And I'm actually going to sit in Vajrasana now that I said that. But place your hands onto your thighs, roll both of your shoulders back. Place your hands onto your abdomen and close your eyes to start. Simply feel your breath moving in and out of your body. Feel your abdomen rise and fall underneath your hands. And actually send your breath a bit more fully into your abdomen. So preparing for the core work by feeling your breath move in and out of the abdomen. Your muscles, your abdominals, need to engage as you breathe. So observe that. And continue to center yourself in your abdomen with your breath. As you place your 2 hands onto your thighs. Gently let your eyes open. Stay connected to your breath and your abdomen. As you come towards our first set of postures, which is cat and cow spine, one of my favorites to treat my back. First round, notice how my toes are still extended back like we had in our Hero's Pose or Thunderbolt pose. Let your head come even between your 2 shoulders. Connect to your inhalation and your exhalation. Then allow your exhalation to round or flex your spine. Exhale, pull your tailbone underneath you and your chin gently towards your chest. Take a full deep breath in that first cat-shaped spine. And with your next inhalation, can you arch your spine into a cow-shaped spine? Extend your spine, gently roll your shoulders back. Pull your chest between your arms and let your tailbone lift towards the sky. Let's do one more time a little slower like this, exhaling to round the spine. As you round the spine, feel your abdominals draw up towards your back. On your next inhalation, arch your spine, looking forward, shoulders roll back. Let your tailbone lift, let your chin lift. So now we'll move a bit faster with the breath. It's an exhalation, lift your abdomen, round your spine. It's an inhalation to arch your spine. Keep breathing and keep moving. Keep breathing and keep moving your spine in both directions. Feel the work of your abdominals. Feel the stretch that accompanies the work. Let your toes continue to stretch back as you take another repetition. When you exhale, come to a flat spine. Bring your knees and your feet into either hero's pose or thunderbolt pose, whichever posture is better for you. Hands to thighs, roll your two shoulders back and let your chest open. Feel your breath moving in and out of your abdomen. Continue to move your breath through your nostrils as you feel your abdominals begin to engage more and more. Drop fully into your body. Stay with your breath, taking another full deep breath in and out. And then we'll once again come onto the hands and the knees. So we're spreading the feet again, keeping the toes extended back one more round. We're going to prepare the hands and the wrists. Notice how my spine is extended and my back is flat. I'm going to begin to walk my hands just an inch at a time in towards each other. I'm using this to prepare my shoulders, elbows, wrists, and hands for a little bit of weight bearing. And then notice how I start to turn my hands forward, and not only forward, but I'm going to start to turn my hands out and away from each other. You might notice stronger stretch at certain positions. You might notice pain. Notice, is it something that feels appropriate to stretch through, or does it feel like something that should be avoided? Just making note of what arises for you until finally both of your hands are facing forward. So now again, it's exhalation to round your spine, cat shape. Inhalation, arching spine to cow. Deep breaths as you move. Feeling a grip of your abdomen as you move through both directions. I let my exhalation help me lift my abdominals. I keep my abdomen gripped even as I arch my spine. A couple more times. In other words, root out any weak links in your abdominals. Address them with your awareness. Strengthen where your weakest parts are. And then we come towards a flat spine. Now knees and feet together, and this time see how I'm going to tuck my toes underneath me, and then I try to sit back onto my heels. You might decide to give it a try, and then you notice you need a little extra lift under your hips. You could try a block or a pad, like a bolster underneath you, or when in doubt, you can simply tuck your toes under and rock backward and forward and stretch your feet that way. But I'll just sit into my heels for a couple more deep breaths. I know some of you have been here a little bit longer than I have. So feel your breath in your abdomen, send it down, and then come onto your hands and your knees. So stretch toes back. Stretch toes back, hands are underneath the shoulders. spin your right hand, and I'm going to mirror you towards your knee. Modify if you need to. I'm going to take cat and cow 3 times. Exhaling to round. Inhaling to arch. Keep your hips level. Feel the work come evenly between both sides of your back. Notice if your hips are twisting. Notice if your shoulders are twisting. Your spine, address those issues. You come through center and you switch a hand placement. And then it's going to be 3 times. Exhaling to round, inhaling to arch. Address any imbalances in your hips, your spine, your shoulders. When you come back through center, have both of your hands facing forward. And we're building. So now we tuck the toes under. Please remember, you can always be in cat and cow and not do this next part. This next part is harder, as you'll see. Notice how now, when I exhale and round my spine into cat shape, I lift my knees. I hover them off of the ground. Then I lightly place my knees to the ground and I inhale, arch, maintaining belly grip. I exhale, hover the knees, and inhale, arch the spine. A lot of thigh work, a lot of core work, a lot of shoulder work. Keep breathing, keep moving. If this feels too much for you, absolutely not a problem. Just stay with cat and cow on your knees. Quiet as a mouse, lifting and lowering your knees. Couple more times. Full deep breaths to lift and lower. I'll do one more. And then I come towards a flat spine. With toes stretched back, I'm sitting back. Take your posture of choice. Place your hands onto your thighs. Let your shoulders roll back and down. Fingers are going to interlock behind you. Make note of which index finger you take on top, and remember to keep switching the interlock of your fingers as we go. Roll your shoulders back. Let your chest open. Let your shoulders go back and stretch up through the crown of the head while you send your breath into your abdomen. Inhaling, abdomen rise. Exhaling, abdomen fall. Let's change the cross of the fingers. And just one more time with this Lolasana, binding the fingers behind us. Send your breath into your abdomen. Stay centered in your abdomen. Lift through the crown of the head. Take another full deep breath. And gently let that go. Let's come towards downward facing dog. Do make sure that your toes are on the sticky mat and not on the blanket, hands as well. So you'll see I'm just moving it a little bit so that I can do that. I firmly plant my hands not directly underneath my shoulders, a full handprint in front of my shoulders. Notice how I'm going to grip my abdominals and lift them first. Then I pick up into downward facing dog. Breathe into your abdominals. Breathe deeply into your abdominals. Stretch through the crown, through the very top of your head. Stretch your arms, stretch your legs, ground yourself into the container of this posture. Feel your abdomen rise and fall. Take a couple more full deep breaths. Then gently place your 2 knees onto the ground. Okay, so we're building now. Your right knee and shin are going to come onto your blanket support. Your left leg is going to cross on top of the right. Notice how my toes, they're pointed. So sometimes it's just a matter of easing your hips back towards the heels and then taking an alternate pose if this ever gets to be too much. But see how I sit back onto my 2 heels right now, my knee lifted, but my sits bones are dropping down onto my heels. It can feel pretty intense on the calf, on that right calf. I just try to put a positive frame on it, and I feel gratitude for the muscle release that I'm receiving for my right foot, ankle, calf, and knee. If it hurts at all, don't do it. You could try placing a blanket behind the knees and starting to work on this stretch, or simply sitting in hero's pose or thunderbolt pose. So that's the last time I'll say that. So make sure you take care of yourself as we continue to move forward. Now, I'm going to come forward onto my hands and knees. And now see how I'm going to have right knee in the center of sticky mat, left knee behind, spread feet. Okay, so this is like a Gomukasana hip stretch leg position. And then notice how I'll take cat and cow a couple times in this leg position. So this, we can typically make this work for most bodies, unless there's an issue of like hip replacement or something where pressure on the knees doesn't work. And if that's the case, you could just take cat and cow spine. But notice how I'll flatten my back, and then I'm going to sit back to my heels, or in between my heels. So this one doesn't always work, and you could use one of your props underneath your hips if you need, or more than one block underneath your hips. You could also just continue to work cat and cow. Notice how now I'm placing my hands out in front of me, and now I am in this position going to work cat and cow a couple times. And then when I come through center, I just feel that stretch, and I'm present with it, and I breathe into it. Then I'll come forward, and I'm backing out the same way. So we're going to put on the lights. Beep, beep, beep. We're backing up out of this. So I'm going to take that cat and cow in the Gomukasana shape. And then when I come through center, the left leg is coming on top of the right leg. And you're going to try sitting into this again. It might be way more manageable already after just doing these couple of stretches. Okay, it might have loosened things up for you a little bit. And then notice how I'm going to take cat and cow again. If your hands don't touch the ground because it's too much pressure to sit into your calf. You could try blocks underneath your hands as we take cat and cow again, but you're gonna see that I work on this, so I'm able to lean into this and start to work some cat and cow. And I realize we're working these bent knee positions in this class with some time involved, but that's where we can start to see some good changes occur. If we spend a little bit of time working on the stretch and that fascia release. So then I come back through center. See how I'm lifting off of that stretch. I'm setting my knees underneath me. And then I take my right foot out to the side. Take your right foot out to the side. Can you plant your left hand into the ground? Roll your left shoulder back. Press your right knee back. Lengthen your spine and waist and turn your chest to the right. Lengthen through your left toes. Lengthen through your spine. Twist your spine. When we get to the side planking variation, this is always a great option. But see how now I'm coming back through center. I bring my right leg back underneath me. The left foot comes forward and we're going to lunge. Not only are we lunging and stretching through the front of the hip, but the fingers interlock behind the shoulders. They start to roll back. Lift the chest, lift the spine. Second interlock of the fingers, roll your shoulders back, lift your chest, lift your spine. Letting that go, come back towards the hands and the knees. We're all picking up into downward facing dog. Hands a hand print forward of the shoulders. Stretch your legs. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Deep breaths. Ground into this container, the container of downward facing dog. One more longer hold. Stretching through the heels, stretching through both of your arms. Last couple deep breaths. And then gently come down onto the knees. We're setting up for cat and cow for the second side. So it's toes stretched back, exhaling to round, inhaling to arch. Toes stretched back to start, exhaling to round, inhaling to arch. Feel the grip of your abdomen. Breathe deeply into your abdomen. So you could continue working this way, or you can tuck your toes under. So just know that if the toes are on the blanket, it's going to be an extra bit of stability that you're going to need to work in your core. When you exhale, you hover your knees and round your spine. You inhale and arch your spine. If that feels like too much, it's just moving back into cat and cow. It's totally great. Wherever you're at. I am like a ninja, quiet. Quiet with the lift and the lower of my knees. Deep breaths. Be calm in your face. Be calm but deep in your breath. If someone was to see you doing this practice, you would be so calm and serene that no one would have a clue as to how hard this is. Finishing up between those two sides. From there, it's a flat back. Let's move into the muscle release work. So left Shin pressing, right shin on top. I try to keep my feet together and then I'm sitting back. So we're just gonna move into this with a positive mindset. I'm saying, okay, this is like a really deep muscle release for my calf. Keep breathing, stay relaxed as you get that right shin pushing into the left calf. Stay calm, deep breaths in and out. And just one more full deep breath in and out. Then coming forward, and I'm going to take that cow face leg. So it's left knee forward, feet are spread, hands pressing, cat and cow spine. Typically, I see almost everybody typically able to make this work. If it feels painful, like on a knee joint or on your back, you could just do regular cat and cow. You might try elevating this front knee. If you practice this class again, you could try it that way, and that can give a little bit of space into the low back and the hip. But then as I come towards a neutral spine, I'll sit back between my feet, and then I'm again going to work that cat and cow. So just work into that stretch, and I'm just going to sit here for a couple extra breaths in that stretch with an extended spine. If you've found any issues, feel free to take extra time. Obviously, this is on your own pace. Then I'm going to back out the opposite way. So I come back into my cat and cow in cow face. And then I'm again going to place the right shin on top of the left calf. Now, it might already be feeling better, and awesome. If that's the case, I lean into my arms, and I'm fine being on the floor. I'm working cat and cow. I'm still continuing full work of my spine and coordinating my head. Just know that this next round, we're going to start to put the brake lights on the movement of the head as we prepare for Lolasana pendant pose, which is an arm balance. And then when I come back through center and onto my hands and knees, I'm now taking left foot out to the side, hand anchored underneath me, turning spine, and breathe. So this is to give you some space in your low back, in your hips. Take deep, full breaths into your low back and your hips. And then when you come back through center, left leg is underneath right foot. It's forward. You lean into it. Interlock your fingers behind, roll shoulders back, and stretch. And then I'll do the second interlock of the fingers. So I'm getting the advantage of the left hip stretch, chest, shoulder, and back stretch as I lift up through the crown of my head. And then we're all going to come back into downward facing dog. So please know now we're getting into the core, and I'm gonna move faster. If you need to continue moving slower, or if you find that this is problematic, you could just repeat the first half of class here, this first part of class. So now we're gonna start moving into this a little bit more. Can you take your right shin down onto the ground? So see how my toes are extended back. Now see how on my inhalation towards a cow spine, I'm lifting my tailbone, chest, and chin. When I exhale, I'm gonna pick my knee off of the ground like a cat shape. I pull my knee towards my nose. So it's inhaling to touch down, and it's exhaling, grip your belly, pick up. It's inhaling, touch down. If that feels like too much, keep your foot on the ground and just pick your knee up. But if you can, another 3 times, do the full motion. That would be awesome. You could also go to cat and cow or the hover of both of your knees. So I'm finishing up that final one. I touch my shin down and then see how I take left shin on top. So this is familiar, we've done this already. So we're sitting into the muscle release, prepping Lolasana, hands on either floor or blocks. So as promised, roll your shoulders back, but now keep your head and shoulders in place. As you exhale, round in your low and middle back as well as your hips. So you inhale and you exhale. So see how I'm rounding towards that cat-shaped spine. And with these next couple ones, could you try to also lift your knees off of the ground? But I'm trying to keep my shoulders in place, my head in place. You just do your best. And you finish one more. And once you've done that, you come forward and you stack your right knee on top for that cow face, full cat and cow. So you're gonna relieve the neck and stretch. When you come back through center and sit between your heels, you could continue with that cat and cow, or you could just settle straight away into a deeper stretch for the hip. See how I'm moving forward? I'm trying to compact my chest towards my thigh. This will help you to pick up into Lolasana, pendant pose, the arm balance that we're attempting today. Then I come forward, and I'm once again going to take the leg position of Lolasana. I'm going to sit back onto my heels, and I'll show with the blocks underneath the hands for this one. I'm stable enough on blankets with the blocks, but I see people oftentimes need to have the blocks on sticky mat, and that's okay, adjust if you need to. See how I roll my shoulders back, I keep looking forward. When I roll my shoulders back and I exhale, I'm gonna find cat shape in my low spine hips. I'm gonna lift my core and I'm gonna try to pick my feet up as well. And then I would inhale and drop. So I set my shoulders, I exhale, and I pick everything up into pendant pose and drop down. So let's do 3 more times. Exhaling to pick up and down. So see how I'm really trying to pull my knees and my legs and my feet up and down. And with the last one, pendant pose, could you pick up and then give a little rock forward and backward? And then releasing down. Removing blocks from the hands, come forward towards the hands and the knees. Remember how we had this spin of the hands earlier? We're gonna do this here. And we're gonna take 3 brief cat and cow. Full movement of neck and shoulders. And one more, stretching forearms, wrists, and hands. When you come back through center and align the hands forward, your right leg, it can come out to the side, knee is at a turnout, thigh is spun out. So we've done this portion of it already, where we get the length of the spine and the turn. If weight bearing is feeling good, I would love it if you could continue to roll this left shoulder back and see how I just extend my left leg back. And notice my butt, I have to squeeze it and press my glutes into the hip joint. I'm keeping my hand on my hip. I roll my 2 shoulders back, and I just take a few more full deep breaths in the weight bearing. A variation on Vashisthasana, our side plank. Great for scoliosis, great when we're working those flexion and extension exercises, those cat and cow, to balance it out. When you come back down to the ground, you're gonna switch to have your left foot forward in the lunge. So I'm pressing my hips forward, interlocking my fingers, rolling shoulders back, and breathe and stretch. And second interlock of fingers, rolling shoulders back and stretch. And then I release that, bringing both of my legs back underneath me. You can continue with cat and cow, or from here, press firmly into your palms, take downward facing dog, and place your left shin forward and onto the ground. Then it would be an inhalation to arch spine, exhalation, rounding spine, and even trying to pick your bottom leg off of the ground. So you're going to continue to move and breathe, quiet as a mouse, lifting up and taking it down. A couple more times. I try to touch my nose to my knee when I round. Use the strength of your entire abdomen while you lift and lower. When you place your left shin to the ground and cross the right leg behind, try sitting back. Open your chest, soften your shoulders, and maybe taking that cat and cow shape. But then remember how we want to lock the shoulders in place and lengthen the chin as we learn how to move only the hips, the low back, the middle back. This will start to get you there towards lifting up into Lolasana, and it'll stretch some interesting ways as well. Then we come forward into that cow face, which would be left knee forward, feet spread a couple of times, working your spine. And when I sit back between my heels, I might try staying forward in my legs and taking a deeper stretch. You decide and work really well with yourself. come out the same way. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that cat and cow. And then I'm gonna stack my right shin on top. So now we get back, so I'm doing that muscle release. And then I'm gonna get back into Lolasana, pendant pose. So I lean into my arms, I'm gonna set my shoulders, pull my chest and my chin forward. And then I'm gonna exhale and pick it all up high. And then I release it. And I exhale and I pick it all up high. And I release it. And exhale, pick it up high. And 2, picking it up high. And with the last one, you could try to dangle the legs forward and backward. Get that extra bit of core strength. Release it down. Come onto your hands and your knees. Do a quick relief for the forearms. I'm actually gonna roll a little circle, but you could do cat and cow again if you need the neck release and the upper back release. And then I take left leg out to the side, knee open, hand underneath. Absolutely feel free to stay here or extend your leg back. See how I need to tighten my glutes and drive them forward. Roll the shoulder back and breathe. Lengthen through your spine, set your right shoulder, continue to roll it back, strengthen your back. It's a great counter to all of that cat-shaped spine. This is a great pose to work on for scoliosis or back imbalances. And then when you come forward and release down, you're gonna take that low lunge second side. So I'm going to place my foot forward, I lift up. I interlock my fingers, roll my shoulders back and stretch. And then second interlock of my fingers, and I roll my shoulders back and stretch. And release, and hands and knees for downward facing dog. Pick up and breathe. And gently come down onto the knees and spread your knees wide, bring your big toes to touch. You can take child's pose, so starting to cool down here, hips towards the heels, arms forward, head towards the ground. If child's pose is cooling enough for you, you could stay in child's pose, but notice how now, when I lift up towards my hands and knees, I'm gonna come towards a pigeon shape in the right leg. So see how I'm turning my right knee and hip out. My foot is turning in, and notice how I'm at my own pace, shifting my hips backward and down. So this is it from the front. Notice how I'm able to open my shoulders and my chest. I'll show from the side. You would need to begin to pace yourself, pulling yourself back. If your hip does not reach towards the ground comfortably, you would place, it's very helpful to place one of those blocks underneath the hip. If possible, those toes can extend back. You might even choose to take your second block underneath your forehead, but notice how I'm still extending my spine forward. In other words, it's not rounding forward. Couple more deep breaths into the hips. And second side. So backing off of that and then arranging for your second side. Left leg coming forward. Right leg behind. So sometimes this is perfect to stay here. Sometimes it's useful to come forward. Make the right choice for yourself and be here and breathe. You could simply breathe in child's pose for these next handful of deep breaths. Then start to lift up and final cow face, which this pigeon may have helped you in this journey towards your cow face. So see how now my right knee is coming forward. I shift my foot to the side and I stack the left knee behind and I sit. Okay, so move into the stretch for the hip briefly. When you sit up, interlocking fingers behind and stretch. Lift through the crown of your head. And a second, interlock of your fingers. Stretch. Take your right hand towards your left hip. My fingers are still interlocked. Reach your head away. Coming through center, stack your right hand on top of the left. Pull your elbows wide. Bring your arms up and overhead. Now see how I take my hands behind my head, I pull my left arm up, I pull my right elbow down, and then we'll try to go for full cow face in the hands. See how I would spin my shoulder, I try to reach my hand up my back. And I try to make the clasp, and if that's not happening, it's okay. Take a deep, full breath in and out, and then let that go, and come forward onto your hands and knees. And take a brief downward facing dog. And down to the knees, second side. So I'm taking like plank in my right leg, setting the left knee to the center of the mat, foot to the side. I tuck that second knee behind. So I'm going to stretch first into my hips. Once that hip is well stretched, it's interlocking fingers behind you, open chest. Decompress the spine by lifting through the crown of your head. And second interlock. So now, see how I'm pulling that interlock towards the side of my waist. I'm opening through my left shoulder and moving my head away from the shoulder. So this would be the down arm in the cow face arm position. So if that's a problem for you, feel free to stay. But notice how now it's left hand on top, pull, stretch up, and perhaps hands behind the head and working on the top arm of cow face. Just work appropriately with yourself. And then I might try to do the full cow face arm position. Having to earn it today. It's not easy after working on the arm balances, right? You know, for some of you, you might be noticing this is a pose that's maybe more accessible at other times and not as much after we've worked on the strength building in a pose like Lolasana. And then when you let all of that go, you could just take your two legs forward out in front of you, and let's move on to the back and move towards a shavasana. So see how my feet, I'm setting them wide on the sticky mat. Let your head be comfortable underneath you. If you need to have the pad of a blanket underneath you, take it. And then tip both of your knees to the right, and let the front of your left hip open as you take your arms out to the sides. And then rock your legs to the second direction. So tipping your legs, let the front of your hips stretch. Let your head turn away from the legs, and then you continue to rock your legs side to side. Let your hips open. Let your back open. Take another full sweeping breath in and out. And then you would come back through center and let your knees drop together. Let your hands rest on your abdomen one more time and draw yourself into your breath. Drop into your body fully. Ground into your abdomen, your hips, your back, your neck, and your shoulders. And take a full sweeping breath in and out. Let your breath rest in your abdomen. anchored, stay rooted within yourself. As you take another deep, full, sweeping breath in and out. And then some gentle movement into the fingers and the toes. As from there, you roll towards your side. And lift up on your own time. And have your hands in front of your heart with me. Seal your palms, close your eyes, breathe deeply into yourself, in and out. Open yourself to a sense of gratitude for your body, for what it's done for you today, for your breath, for this life. Acknowledge the gift that it is. And as you open yourself to this gift of life, bow your head to your heart, bowing to the spirit within. Namaste. And thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.